Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the City of Southfield City Council on June 22nd, 6 p.m., being conducted via teleconference. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Banks. Brightwell.
Here.
Hoskins.
Here.
Mandelbaum.
Present.
Morris. Here. Taylor.
Here.
Cruz.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum, and the city administrator, the mayor, and a host of other city attorney, host of other department heads are on the line. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance that will be given today by Councilman Daniel Brightwell.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indefensible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll move on to, we have one presentation this evening, presentation of a joint resolution for Provost Maria Vazde.
Council President, I'll take this.
Okay.
This is a joint mayor and council resolution declaring June 30th, 2020, Maria Vaz Day in the city of Southfield. Whereas Provost Dr. Maria Vaz, Vice President of Academic Affairs, has served Lawrence Technological University and its students since joining the faculty in 1983 after completing her doctorate in physics at Kent State University. And whereas during her 35-year tenure with LTU, Dr. Vaz has proven herself to be a most resourceful and adaptable leader, having served as Associate Provost, Dean of Graduate Programs, Interim Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, and Interim Dean of the College of Engineering. And whereas, as Interim Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Vaz guided the development of several new programs, including the Master of Educational Technology, Bachelor of Science in Media Communications, and Bachelor of Science in Chemical Biology, helping to launch Lawrence Tech into a bio and life sciences curricula. Whereas Dr. Vaz led the LTU team for the North Central Association's accreditation review effort in 2001 and was a leader of the university's efforts to enhance the teaching of science in primary, middle, and high schools. Dr. Vaz's efforts led to the formal establishment of LTU's Master of Science Education degree and the development of the university's first doctoral program in this area. Since that time, Lawrence Tech has added 2 additional doctoral programs and awarded its first doctoral degrees in 2006. Whereas Dr. Vaz and her husband, Nuno, hold a doctorate in physics and are blessed with 3 children, and whereas on Tuesday, June 30th, Lawrence Technological University and the entire Southfield community will reflect on the successful career of Dr. Maria Vaz and wish her a long, happy, and healthy retirement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Mayor and Council, City of Southfield, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, do hereby declare Provost Maria Vaz Day, June 30th, 2020, in the City of Southfield. And be it further resolved that we, the Mayor and Council, City of Southfield, pay tribute to Dr. Maria Vaz, Lawrence Technological University's Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost, and thank her for her longstanding dedication and service to the family, the students themselves, the faculty, the alumni of LTU, and to the city of Southfield. And we wish her and her husband the best in retirement. Signed by the Mayor and Council on this 22nd day of June.
Great. Quite impressive. I think that's well deserved. Thank you. Council, would I'd entertain a motion to approve this resolution?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the resolution as presented by the mayor on behalf of the council and the mayor.
In support, this is Councilwoman Taylor.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Brightwell, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we approve the joint resolution to name Provost Maria Vaz Day. I'm sorry, which date was that, Mr. Mayor? 30th?
It's June 30th or
On June 30th here in the city of Southfield. Was there any other discussion before we took a vote? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll for me?
Brightwell,
Yes.
Hoskins,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Banks.
Yes.
Joint resolution adopted for Provost Maria Vaz Day.
Great,
Thank you.
No problem. We have no appointments for this evening, but we have one set of minutes that need to be approved from June 1st, 2020.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Councilman Brightwell. I have one correction before we get into the,
Sure.
and I didn't see anything other than this. They indicated that the meeting convened at noon, and I specifically recall the meeting convened at 6 p.m. So that's in the second sentence of the opening of the minutes.
Okay. I believe we can make that change.
Yeah, that's the only thing I saw.
Councilwoman Banks also has a change.
Yes, Ms. Banks?
Thank you. On the bottom of page 10, the paragraph, in my opinion, needs to be clarified, and it should read, stated that they would have approved the proposed resolution if consideration had been given to increase the number of candidates for the primary election. I don't think it reads very clear right now. And there should be an asterisk next to Mandelbaum, and then an asterisk in that paragraph so someone knows to look there. Or underneath the nays. I mean, that's why we voted nay and we clarified it. Or that's why I voted nay, and clarified it. And you'd have to see if Councilman Mandelbaum is in agreement with that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
I'll agree to go with that on today's meeting, but I do want to refer back to Robert's rules. I don't believe that's within protocol to continue to do that. I know we've done it in the past to give explanations on votes, but I don't believe that is actually the appropriate way to approve the minutes in that regard. So I'm just going to say that, and I'll verify that before our later meetings. But as for this meeting, I would ask the clerk to make those changes on there as well for today for the approval of these minutes. But I do want to check that out moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Because I know there have been some people that you voted against certain things, but they have clarified, for whatever reason.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm not saying that it's not been done. We've done it for years, as long as I've been here. But under some further review, I found that it really is not the appropriate way to do it. But again, I won't deny it on this occasion. We'll make the change for the approval of these minutes today. So
okay.
Is that okay, Madam Clerk?
Yeah, that's fine. And since we are doing these meetings teleconference, if you see anything and you let us know beforehand, we can resubmit the minutes with the correction instead of reading off things. It's just easier if you send an email, and we can do that moving forward because we are meeting teleconference. That would be very helpful.
Okay, and I'll be more than happy to submit the language, but I thought we were told because we were doing a teleconference that we should state it versus,
it's a best practice, Councilwoman Banks, to give us a professional courtesy, and then you could state it as well if you would have given us the email beforehand, and we could have sent out the language that was interpreted as. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council members have any comments or concerns on the minutes with the
This is
adjustments?
Councilman Mandelbaum. I just have one.
Okay.
That follows Dan. It says that we convened at noon in the council conference room. It probably should say via teleconference. Unless no one told me that we were meeting in person.
Okay. Thank you. Any other council members? So we'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole for June 1st with the changes suggested by Councilman Brightwell, Banks, and Mandelbaum.
Mr. Chair, this is
Yeah.
Councilwoman Morris. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of June 1st with the changes suggested by Councilwoman Banks and Councilman Mandelbaum.
And Brightwell.
Yes.
Support.
And Brightwell,
Councilwoman
yes.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So it's been moved by Ms. Morris, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we approve the meeting minutes of the Committee of the Whole of June 1st, 2020, with the changes suggested by Councilman Brightwell, Mandelbaum, and Councilwoman Banks. Are there any other questions or concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Hopkins,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Brightwell.
Yes.
Minutes adopted as corrected by Councilman Mandelbaum, Councilwoman Banks, and Councilman Brightwell.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to our consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Councilwoman Taylor. Could we please pull item D?
Item D. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Were there any other things that anyone wanted to pull before we took a vote on the consent agenda? Okay.
Mr.
Can we
Chair,
go? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion, if that's okay.
Go right
Were
ahead.
okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent agenda items A, B, C, E, F, G, and H.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Mr. Brightwell, that we approve consent agenda items A, B, C, F, G, and H. Are there any questions or concerns on those? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Brightwell,
Yes.
Hoskins.
Yes.
All consent agenda items, with the exception of D, have been approved.
Okay. So we'll open up discussion with starting with Ms. Taylor on item D.
Yes, I just wanted to be transparent. The award for this bid is going to a company called Crump, and I happen to be a full-time employee of Crump, so I will be abstaining from the vote on this.
Okay. Was there anything else from council? All right, then we can call the vote again then, please, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent agenda item D.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum. Sorry, I didn't catch who supported it.
Mrs. Morris.
This is Mrs. Morris. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. That we approve item D of our consent agenda this evening. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Abstain?
Cruz,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Brightwell,
Yes.
Hoskins,
Yes.
Mandelbaum.
Yes.
Consent agenda item D approved. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 public hearings this evening. Starting first with the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant CARES Act. Fred or Mr. Lampy, who's going to lead this out?
Mr. President, this is City Administrator Zorn. Rick Lampy is on the line with us. This evening we're asking Council to conduct a public hearing regarding the 2019-20 Community Development Block Grant CARES. These are the COVID funds that the city has been allocated by formula from HUD. Mr. Lampy?
Good evening. What we are proposing with these funds, and as Mr. Zorn said, $256,000 for the purpose of preventing, for, and reporting or responding to the virus. We're proposing 4 activities with these funds. First, administration in the amount of $38,522. Business support, and that would be working with Centropolis, the accelerator with Lawrence Tech. That would be $51,364. Personal protection equipment in the amount of $89,887. And public services such as food, rent assistance, utilities, different types of public service activities in the amount of $77,045. Now, federal program and federal programs come with a number of requirements. In this case, we have to approve substantial amendments to our 5-year consolidated plan, our annual action plan, and our citizen participation plan. And HUD requires some of these as part of our application process. The citizen participation plan is just kind of a guide that we work with HUD on, and what they have done is they reduce the number of days of comment periods to 5 days rather than a 30-day comment period. And they've also recognized that we can have public meetings via the internet and virtual type meetings. The 5-year conceptual plan or consolidated plan is from 2016 to 2020, and it's basic guide of the needs and the goals of the city. And basically, HUD there's 3 national objectives for the program: benefiting low and moderate income people, eliminating slums, and addressing urgent needs. Our 5-year plan did not include urgent needs, and that will be included in a substantial amendment. And then finally, the annual action plan, and this is last year's, not the one you just approved a month ago, but this is 2019-2020. The annual action plan will be amended to reflect these funds and these activities that we are proposing. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, first we need to open up the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Any individuals that wish to speak to this particular matter, you'll have 3 minutes to begin your statements. And please be sure to give your name and address for the record before you begin. And we'll just take a moment because I believe we have a little delay when it comes to the phone.
We have one, Mr. President. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello. Good evening, Council. This is Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southville, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I'm looking on the computer, and I'm looking at all of the information that was provided to the council via the council packet, and I don't see anything on here that speaks to increasing the amount of money that we are given to Haven. At the last meeting, after I spoke, someone from the city, and it may have been the city planner, I'm not sure, forgive me if I don't recall, that said something about the fact that there is not a lot of domestic violence, and it's not on the rise in the city of Southfield. Well, you might want to do your homework. There is a lot of domestic violence as it relates to the coronavirus and people being quarantined. There are more domestic disputes. And we know that ever since 2008, there has been a domestic violence problem, and not just in Southfield, but all over the southeastern Michigan area. So I like the fact that through this CARES Act that we were given the amount of $256,818 signed by 45 on March 27th of 2020. It just seems like we tend to give more money for administration and for administrative purposes as opposed to actually spending all of the money for what's intended. I know that the city has a general fund. They have a lot of emergency funds and funds that they don't always disclose that they have, and you just had to have been around for many years making notes and hearing the council over the years talk about these undisclosed accounts. You can get money from other accounts to do what you want to do for this CARES Act, and you can take those money and put it towards Haven. Or you can take your undisclosed account, take that money and use it for this initiative, and take the CARES money and give more money to Haven. But I really would like to see this council understand the fact that domestic violence is still a problem. It's still on the rise. It's even more so because of the quarantine and people just not understanding the nature of COVID-19. That currently there's no vaccine, it's not curable, and we just need to be mindful of these things. Don't wait until situations happen. And we've seen that situations have happened before you decide that you want to.
Your time is up, Mr. Gerald. Thank you very much.
And I want to thank Council for taking my idea about the Black Lives.
Mr. President, we'll wait to see if we have another person.
Okay.
We're all set, Mr. President. No other call.
All right, thank you. All right, this public hearing is now closed. I'll go to council, and starting with Ms. Banks, if there's anything you'd like to add or ask questions about.
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brightwell?
No questions. No questions.
Okay. Mr. Hoskins?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Mandelbaum?
No questions.
Ms. Morris?
Yes, I have one question for Rick. You spoke to the fact that you needed to respond to urgent needs. Could you just explain what that means, what you're going to do for that, and how much money is going to be allocated to urgent needs?
Okay, the urgent needs is just one of the basic areas where you can spend block grant funds. We have never designated an urgent need. We didn't plan on one. Usually, we budget items in our activities that come before you year after year. This is different. We know what he planned on or thought we would have a situation like this, and so this is an opportunity to spend these funds, because it's obviously this is a pandemic and it is urgent and it was unfunded and not really planned for. So these funds will be in that category, maybe not benefiting low and moderate income people, or maybe not eliminating slum and blight, but certainly taking care of an urgent need that the community and the nation are now faced with.
And if I may, Mr. President, this is Administrator Zorn.
Yeah, I'm asking. Okay, go ahead, Britt. Yeah,
No,
I was just asking what would be considered.
An urgent need may be our need to buy personal protection equipment, put up the glass. All of those things happened at a very quick rate. Urgent need might also be within the public services group, food assistance for a family, utility assistance to avoid a shutoff after the executive orders are lifted, rent. It may be a broader definition of what we've done in the past with our public service monies. We typically, our Human Services Department helps people who are, maybe facing eviction and that, but those monies are used to close the gap. But, we typically have focused our activities in the housing arena here, 15% of our monies for public services. But you could almost take a broader definition of what is urgent. And it is our thought that, for example, some of the PPEs expenditure would be for some of the glass and that's been installed at City Hall.
Okay, that's great, but I do want to ask if some of that urgent need funding could be set aside for eviction prevention, because we know that there are going to be a large number of people who will be facing eviction fairly soon.
I could tell you there are other buckets of money that are being identified for eviction prevention, the counseling, and in our area, the Community Service Agency, OSA, Oakland County Human Livingston Agency, has been charged with some of that. And then at the state level, we are learning that there are additional funds. So I see money being cobbled from different resources. Some very well could be our the public services line item that we have. We could end up, for example, buying some counseling services. But it will be our objective first to try to tap some of these other buckets of monies as we go through this. We're still learning quite a bit about multiple funding sources. For example, just for council's edification, later on I'm going to be speaking to you about our interlocal agreement with Oakland County. We have the HUD monies. We've received monies from the police department. The consultant who does all of our ambulance billing was able to help us collect some lost revenue money, a substantial number. But we are cobbling different funding sources. There will be a submittal to FEMA for overtime for our police, fire, EMS, public works, human services, those overtime costs, as well as our communication costs. But I really see kind of a SWAT team approach going after different buckets of money. And I will tell you, I think our Human Services Department, when we come to public services, Rhonda Terry does a real nice job in getting different groups to put in money to solve problems for people. And I think on the evictions, we previously had a conversation with the court administrator about what can we do to deal with this flood of evictions we'll be seeing.
Okay, Fred, I just wanted to address that. I mean, we can talk offline if you know of other funds that are coming from the state and other resources, but I just wanted to have a better understanding of how much that we had as a city to contribute to help people prevent eviction, Thank you. That's all I have for now. Mm-hmm.
All right. Ms. Taylor?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else on the line have anything before we vote?
Mr. Chair.
I'll entertain the motion. Yes,
Mr. Chair. Yeah, Fred's line of conversation made me think of the original question. So, I was under the impression that what have we expended in prevention as far as the bathrooms, the glass, and those kind of things, they will perhaps would be reimbursed by FEMA and or the federal government. So is this reimbursement, and I know the dollar amount came to approximately $256. So is this dollar amount, this is where it's coming in through the community block grant, CV, that's our reimbursement?
No, this is a allocation from HUD from the CARES package. This is just one funding source. Part of this will be charged to the county, interlocal. Our first billing source will always be FEMA. If it is not an eligible expenditure under FEMA, we will look to one of these other buckets of money. And I watching webinars on Saturday through the Michigan Municipal League, there are other buckets of monies and other agencies that have allocations that we may find ourselves partnering with to meet I think Ms. Morris is right. We're going to see a tsunami of evictions.
Right. Okay. But I just want to hone in on, because I was thinking that the money we have expended for prevention and, cleanliness and everything, that we've expended up to this particular point, the glass, the sanitation, all those items which were directly related to COVID. And it was my understanding we could potentially get reimbursed dollar for dollar. So this is not that. So that's still ongoing. There's the potential for us to get reimbursed dollar for dollar for things that we have expended directly for COVID.
That is correct, and it's not just for what we expended; it's also what we'll continue to expend.
Okay, all right. The dollar amount, because the dollar amount is so close, that's just throwing me out. The dollar amount I understood last week was that we expended directly for COVID was in the neighborhood of $256,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it was 250 on just the glass and the dividers and the partitions that have been put up. Of these funds, we're only proposing that we would use 35% or just under 90,000 for PPEs. But again, that, just for example, that $250,000 expenditure, we will first look to other buckets of money to charge those expenditures against. This is truly going to be cobbling from a lot of different funding sources.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? I'll entertain the vote. A motion, I'm sorry.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Mandelbaum?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommended resolution for the CBDG-CV fund.
Support. This is Councilwoman Morris.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Ms. Morris, to approve the Community Development Block Grant CARES Act 2019-2020. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening. We'll move to item B. Looks like Mr. Crow will be handling the rest of our public hearings for the night.
Yep. Thank you, through the chair. This is Planner Crowd. Public hearing number B is PSLU 20-0003, a special use request of NTK Investments, LLC, on behalf of the owner, Stanley Targaz, to convert an existing industrial building to a medical marijuana grower and processor in accordance with the Southfield Ordinance and the Michigan Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act on property located at 21680 West 8 Mile Road. This was discussed last week at your study session. I have Mr. Norman Koza on the line. He'll make a couple brief comments just prior to the public hearing. But if we could go through the slide deck, please. Next slide. So I just introduced the location of the property. Next slide. This is an aerial, and it's located in a future land use designated as industrial. Next. Existing conditions from 8 Mile Road. Next. And this is the proposed site plan with building elevations. Next. And the series of existing floor plans. Next. With a proposed floor plan for the different growing and processing units within the facility. Next. This is a few interior shots that are tied into locations within the floor plan. It shows the containerized growing facility, how the plants will be distributed, and some of the filtering systems for this activity. Next. And this is the front landscape plan from 8 Mile. Next. So with that, Mr. Koza, I turn the floor over to you if you want to make a couple comments. The one question that came up last night was the number of full and part-time employees that are available, if you could address that as well. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Norman Koza. Hopefully everybody can hear me well. Hopefully everyone is staying safe. COVID-19, hopefully this can be over real soon.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
You need to speak up, Norm. Norm, can you speak up?
Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Is that much better?
Go ahead, Norm.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me really well. I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, the employees that we should have on full staff, which should be a full staff, employees should be somewhere around 35 employees, full staff, from 9 to 5 p.m., maybe less, a little bit less, give and take, 4 or 5 employees. So it could range. I mean, it just depends on, people looking for work. And I think everybody can vouch for that everybody's struggling finding people to work today. But we're hoping to maximize the amount of parking spaces we have there with employees is what we're going for. And I think that we have somewhere around 39 parking spaces. But we'll have about probably 30 to 35 employees full-time there.
Okay, do you want to say anything else about your operations?
No, our operation is going to be a 9 to 5 operation. At the end of the day, it's a medical marijuana grow facility with a processing facility inside there. It's pretty much that, I don't, if anybody's got any questions, I'd entertain any questions that they have right now to the board.
Okay, we got to open the public hearing first, Norm, so just hang tight. Turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, for the public hearing.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. This is a public hearing for PSLU 20-0003, special use request of NTK Investments, LLC. For those that wish to speak on this particular matter, please call in. You will have 3 minutes. And please make sure you give your name and address for the record. And again, we'll give just a moment to give people an opportunity to call in.
Mr. President, we have a caller.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pam.
Hello, Council. Good evening again. My name is Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I just wanted to find out what is the community benefit. When we voted for medical marijuana facilities in 2008, we were under the impression that the patients that needed the medical marijuana was going to get it from CVS or their doctor or some entity within the pharmacy in their doctor's office. We did not at the time vote for what they referred to as enclosed lock facilities. So we have another initiative, and we're allowing medical marijuana facilities to just crop up everywhere in the state of Michigan and now in our city. Now, this is near 8 Mile. South of 8 Mile, right along where the gentlemen's clubs are, you have so many of those facilities that when you drive down 8 Mile, whatever clothes you have on, you better have some Febreze because the smell is in your clothes. What is this company going to do to prevent the smell? I want to talk about their ventilation system. Some nightclubs, some restaurants have good ventilation to the point where you can't even smell the food that's being cooked there. Even though the residents didn't want it and you guys voted for it and you're allowing it, what are they going to do to prevent the smell? And I understand that this is a special use request. You guys are going to vote for it anyway, so I'm not going to focus on that part of it. I want to focus on the smell and the community benefit. Since we have all of these things that we want to do from a community standpoint, are they going to give 1% of their proceeds, 2% of their proceeds to the Southfield community, like we give money to the art fund? And it's no disrespect to our arts commission and to the mayor, because I know he's very fond of art, as are me and my husband, and I have art in my house. So I'm just trying to figure out what is the community benefit, what are you going to do in reference to the smell, and why do you need this special use request? And I'd like to know how much time I have.
10 seconds.
7 seconds.
Well, thank you. Listen for the clock to go off.
All right, thank you.
Arts Commission and to the mayor, because I'm very fond of art, and me and my husband.
That's your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. President, we'll wait for see if we have another caller.
Okay.
Mr. President, we're all set. We don't have any more callers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This public hearing is now closed. I will turn to council before we take any other, come back around to those questions. I'll start with Mr. Brightwell.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hoskins?
No questions for me.
Okay. Mr. Mandelbaum?
Thank you. The only question I have is, through the chair to the city planner, the part of our safety regulations for these buildings are they really not going to have any advertising or anything on them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That was I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you. No other questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Morris?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Taylor?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Banks?
No questions. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions before we turn it back over to Mr. Crowe for final discussion before we vote? Okay, Terry, did you want to respond to any of the things the caller had?
Yeah. I'm gonna ask Norm just to respond to the ventilation and smell issue, please.
So, I want to make sure everybody can hear me clearly. So we are going, this is a state regulated facility, as well as the city of Southfield, I'm sure will regulate this smell. We are going to have filters throughout the facility. It's mandatory by the state of Michigan to make sure that you're not just everything that's exhausted out of the building is filtered out where you have clean air coming out. She did bring up something that she was asking. This is completely different where she may have thought that we were selling this to the street. This is being sold to medical dispensaries by state guidelines. We just keep this medical facility so somebody can walk up and purchase something from our location. That's not how this works. So I think she was misled by that. But for the smell that she was talking about, we'll have carbon filters that will filter out any smell. So I'm pretty sure that there won't be any smell whatsoever because that's one of the biggest things by the state guidelines is that they do not want you to have any smell coming out of that building. Everything is contained inside the building and has filters to draw out the smell and dissipate the smell.
All right, thank you, Norm.
Thank you.
All right, through the chair, you have a recommended resolution in your packet. You're acting on a special land use.
Okay. Council, I entertain a motion on item B.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Mandelbaum.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve PSLU 20-0003.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum and supported by Mr. Brightwell that we approve PSLU 20-0003, the special use request of NK Investments LLC. Is there anything else before we take the vote? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Thanks.
Yes.
Brightwell,
Yes.
Hoskins,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Cruz.
Yes.
Okay, the special use for PSLU 20-003 is adopted.
All right, thank you. Okay, Terry?
Yes,
Item C?
just before I introduce the next item, I want to call the next applicant. If you could be patient for a minute, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back through the chair. We have Matt Novella and his team on the line. The next public hearing is PSLU 20-0006. If we could have the slide deck, go to the next slide, please. It's a special use request of Sova Group Properties 1 LLC to convert an existing industrial building to a 12,575 gross square foot medical marijuana grower and processor in accordance with Southfield Ordinance and Michigan Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act on property located at 21260 West 8 Mile on the north side of West 8 Mile between Evergreen and Losser. Next slide. Existing conditions. It's located in a future land use which is designated as industrial. Next slide. Existing conditions from 8 Mile. Next slide. Next slide. This is the floor plan which shows where the processing and grow will take place as well as the office. Next slide. Next slide. And then they have provided some interior photos of similar types of facilities. Next slide. So they have the clone room where they do the propagation of the plants and they're on stacked containers. The vegetation room where they actually do the growing. Slide. The grow room and the layout for each of the spaces. Next, please. The processing room where they take the raw material and process it into various products. Next slide. And then we're back to the floor plan Matt, you're up if you want to make some introductory comments before we open the public hearing.
Yes, thank you, Terry, and thank you, Council, for this opportunity. This application is on behalf of Silver Group Properties. They're the building owner. They've been in that building for about 25, 26 years, and assuming this application is approved, the existing Silva business is intending to relocate to a different location within Southfield. So by approving this, not only are you adding the tax revenue and adding employees for this new business that the application is about, but you're also retaining the Silver Group's operating business, Jet Steel, to remain in Southfield and another Southfield location. I just wanted to put that out there. As far as the application itself, as Terry mentioned, it's in conformance with the state and Southfield laws and ordinances. It's an industrial building, which meets the special land use request for this use. We're within the correct distancing from anything. We're safe. There's no issues with that. Just want to address a couple things. There are some community benefits for this: increased tax base, added employment. The operations manager is intending to relocate to Southfield and buy a home there. We do intend to invest heavily in nonprofits to benefit the local community. We've got veterans tied to this business, and we want to support that. We are contributing to the art fund, so there are some benefits to this business. As far as state compliance, these licenses are heavily regulated with respect to both the tracking with very specific software the state requires, as well as testing, as well as security and even odor control. Any of those issues that become problematic runs the risk of losing the license. So the operating entity of this space will be very, very focused on maintaining very, very strict conformance with the state regulations and requirements. As far as construction goes, the general contractor is from Southfield. He will retain his crews to do as much work in the building as possible, and also take bids from any applicable trade, including Southfield businesses. Odor control we've talked about before, and the prior applicant were in agreement with that. We've got very specific ventilation requirements, and we'll be happy to discuss with the building department and even enhance if the building department requires it.
All right, thanks, yep. Matt. Why don't you just hold tight for the public hearing? We'll come back to you. All right, through the chair, turn it back over to you for the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. The public hearing is now open. This is public hearing for item C, PSLU 20-0006, the special use request of Silver Group Properties 1 LLC. And we'll again give a moment for callers to call in. When you come on, please give your name and address for the record.
Yeah, go ahead, Pam.
Good evening, Council. Again, this is Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. And I basically have the same question. And you might want to, in the future, Mr. Crode, on the previous initiative, you got the company's name white out. In the efforts of true transparency, we need to know the name of Stanley Targo's company. That needs to be made public. But we're speaking about this particular one here, and I have the same concerns. Number 6, in the paperwork, it talks about the ability to eliminate any adverse effects in terms of the noise, the dirt, the glare, the odor, and the fumes. I heard him say the buzzword, we're going to give to the art fund, we're going to do to the veterans, we're going to make sure that it doesn't smell, but we don't want the buildings to be green. Every single marijuana building that is south of 8 Mile, they don't all have titles or signage on it, but you know it's a medical marijuana medical facility because it's green. We don't want a bunch of green buildings to connote green marijuana. Now, you mentioned, as I said, the art fund, the veterans, and community programming. what are you going to do in terms of community benefit for black programs? And we don't have a lot of city officials that are pushing for any of the black programs. Everything is the Art Fund and Veterans Fund, which is great, or veterans programs, because my husband and my dad was a veteran and a brother, so I embrace those programs. But we have a lot of black children in our community that needs a little bit of attention. We have black kids that need school supplies, book bags, and some of those things. So I don't want you, sir, to Mr. Matt Novella, to use those buzzwords because someone from the city gave them to you. I want to hear what you're going to do earnestly in the city of Southfield for the residents. I want to know the entire community benefit as a whole, not just what the city is doing to make it look good for them to give you a rubber stamp. I know we've got a lot of ink in our rubber stamps amongst the council people, and I'm hoping that the ink runs out real soon and that they can start asking more questions and more specifically about what you're going to do for the community. We really didn't want these here, but our council rubber stamped, and they did it even though they were not ready for it.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we'll wait to see if you have any more callers, sir.
All right.
No more callers, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. All right, public hearing is now closed. I will now turn to council, starting with Mr. Hoskins.
No questions for me. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Morris.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Taylor.
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Banks.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brightwell. Mr. Brightwell. All right.
I'm sorry, it was on mute. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mandelbaum, sorry about that.
I'm sure Terry will explain the buildings I don't believe are going to be painted green or anything else. I think they're just blank buildings, but Terry can confirm that. That's the only thing I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Terry.
Yeah, through the chair, I believe in your packet there was an elevation of the proposed building, and I do not believe that there's green in the elevations of the building. But anyways, we don't regulate color. I believe that the applicant had previously addressed the carbon filters and air filtration, so there's strict guidelines both within the city and the state regarding smell. Other than that, I have a proposed recommended resolution in your packet, and if there's no other specific questions, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Was there any other comments from anyone else on the line before we take a vote? If not, I can entertain the motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, Mr. Mandelbaum.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve PSLU 20-0006, the special use request of Silva Group Properties.
Support. Ms. Taylor.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we approve PSLU 20-0006 the special use request of Silva Group's property. If there's nothing else, we'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Brightwell,
Yes.
Hoskins,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Banks.
Yes.
Resolution adopted for PSLU 20-006, special use request.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Crowe, item D.
Yep, I just have one more applicant to get a hold of, and I'll be back with you shortly. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, through the chair, I do have Mitchell Simon representing the Southfield Nonprofit Housing. Our next public hearing is PZR 20-0003. If we could have the slide moved up, please. This is a rezoning request on behalf of Southfield Nonprofit Housing, who is the owner, and the City of Southfield and Southfield Neighborhood Revitalization, to rezone a total of 1.836 acres of land spread over 4 properties from R1 single family residential to RT attached single family, located at 20433 Westland, 20435 Westland, 20436 Westland, and Sidwell parcel 2434-476-003 on the north and south sides of Westland, between Evergreen and Prescott. Next slide. And this just shows you the contiguous lots. There's 4 separate lots in existing conditions. Next slide. Again, the current zoning is single family. The proposed zoning is attached single family. Next slide. And this is just conceptual of the proposed duplexes should the rezoning go forward. With that, I do have Mitchell Simon representing the Southfield Not-for-Profit. Mitchell, did you have any comments before we open the public hearing?
I'm just very excited for the city of Southfield to have this opportunity to have this kind of development within the city.
All right, thank you. We'll come back to you after the public hearing. All right, through the chair, I'll turn it back over to you for the public hearing.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. This is the public hearing for PZR 20-0003, rezoning request of Southfield Nonprofit Housing on behalf of the owner, City of Southfield, and Southfield Neighborhood Revitalization. If there are any callers that would like to comment on this particular matter, please call in. You'll have 3 minutes to give your name, address for the record before you begin.
Go ahead, Pam.
Okay, I hear the gentleman still talking on here.
No, that's going to be a slight delay. You're good. Go ahead.
Oh, I haven't heard him speaking on the volume here at all. Meaning, okay, I guess there's a delay. I'll go with that. Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I have a couple of questions. Why would it be the Southfield Nonprofit Housing doing this, and the City of Southfield owns the property, and there's a joint connection between the two? That's my first question. The second question is, if you're going to build homes on that 1.836 acres and it's already zoned R1 single family, why can't you just build without making it an attached single family resident home? I think if you're putting 2-story townhouses like there, and even though you're only doing 4 units, Percassi always talked about the fact that we put things in communities or in areas because the zoning allows it or the people are able to ask for a special land use request or rezoning. And when you put these things in there, they look like hodgepodge. They don't necessarily go with the character of the community. So I want to know why you need to rezone when it's already residential to residential attached single family. And why can't you build a home there that would require you not to ask for a rezoning? The other thing that I'm concerned about is when you build 2-floor or 3-floor townhomes that are attached, all of a sudden now you start to mess with the grading. I know that they've had to do a topography and deal with the grading issues, but let me just remind the council and the city officials, when Pebble Creek was built and everything checked out okay and they built these beautiful homes, within 6 months, these homes started cracking at the foundation. The basement walls were cracking. People had drainage and water issues in their homes because the houses didn't match the already character of the area, and it appeared as if somebody was asleep at the switch when it came to doing the topography, checking to see if the grading was okay to build these heavy houses and that many homes. So I'm hoping that the city has really done their due diligence to make sure that we don't have this problem again. And then now we're dealing with a slowed economy, the COVID virus. Are you going to lower? Are you going to reduce the price of these homes?
Your time is up, Ms.
The fact
Your
that
time is up, Sam. The president said your time is up.
No, I'm timing too.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Mr. President, we'll wait to see if we have another caller, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. President, we're all set. We don't have any more callers. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. The public hearing is now closed. First turn to council, starting with Mr. Mandelbaum. Mr. Mandelbaum, are you available?
Yeah, sorry, couldn't get my phone off of mute, but I do not have any questions. I think this is just it's something great to revitalize the city.
I agree. Thank you. Ms. Morris?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Banks?
Thank you. Well, this looks like a great project. How many cars can be parked in the driveway?
Ms. Banks, this is Planner Crode, and all we're dealing with tonight is the rezoning. We hope to have a private developer that will come back to council for site plan review to answer specific questions. What I showed was just for informational purposes. Is the intent for the Southfield Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative to work with the private market to build market rate duplexes that are ranch style, first floor only, no basement, with master ensuite. But the final design has yet to be determined and will come back to council at a future point. We're just dealing with the rezoning to allow for us to come back with site plan information.
Okay, I just hope that when they do come back, that they will be able to put more than one car in the drive, and we don't have a situation like the subdivision across from the Plum Hollow area, the problems that they have with parking. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brightwell?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Hoskins?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else on the line before we move towards the vote? All right, was there anything else you wanted to add, Mr. Crow?
I just wanted Mr. Simon to address the ownership issue, if that's okay.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
All right, the lots are currently owned by the Southfield NRI, and the funds of sources of monies that Southfield NRI gets to operate its business is coming from the Southfield nonprofit housing. That's how the flow works.
Okay, thank you. So this is a rezoning request. It would be appropriate to approve the rezoning from R1 single family to RT attached single family, and then after that motion, should that pass, we'd introduce ordinance number 1721.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crow. Council, we'd like to start with the motion on the rezoning request.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approved PZR 20-0003 rezoning request of Southfield nonprofit housing.
Okay. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Brightwell, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we approve the rezoning request PZR 20-0003 of the Southfield nonprofit housing in the city of Southfield and neighborhood revitalization. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Okay, the approval of zoning PZR 20-003.
Sure. And then again, we'd also have to introduce ordinance 1721.
Mr. Chair, I would like to introduce ordinance number 1721.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Brightwell, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we introduce ordinance 1721. Are there any questions or concerns? Madam Clerk?
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance number 1721 adopted.
All right, thank you.
Thank you through the chair. Our last public hearing tonight, if we can go to, yep, there we go, thank you, is PZTA 20-0001, which is a council-initiated zoning ordinance text amendment to amend Title V Zoning and Planning, Chapter 45, Zoning of the Code of the City of Southfield, by amending Section 5.179 of Article 19 Light Industrial Districts to allow any medical marijuana facility previously approved by City Council prior to October 13th, 2019, to be allowed to apply for a special land use and site plan under Article 19, Medical Marijuana Facilities and Licensing Act, Article 4, Section 5.22-7, Medical Marijuana Facilities, and other amendments that may become necessary as needed for the City of Southfield. Could you go to the next slide, please? There's a specific language. And again, we only approved one caregiver facility a few years ago on Bridge Street. And at the time, that caregiver facility was limited to a total of 72 plants. What this does is gives that one and only site in the whole city of Southfield the opportunity to apply for special land use for grow and processing licensing and approval through the zoning. So this text amendment just allows one previously approved caregiver to apply for the grow processing similar to the previous two public hearings that you held. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. You want to stop and do the public hearing first, and then after the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
So we'd like to open up the public hearing now for item E on our agenda today, which is PZTA 20-0001, Council-initiated zoning ordinance text amendment. We'd like to give people an opportunity to call in. Again, give your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
The number is...
Go ahead. You're live. Turn your.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. You know, when we allow things to be approved and the council rubber stamps it, you do it and it becomes a deal. We've had problems where you've grandfathered things that you agree with, like the bus situation, to be in a residential neighborhood, but then you say that when things are approved and the dynamics change, that the people have to meet the new criteria. Why are we changing a zoning ordinance text amendment to allow something that has already been voted on? I'm not quite sure that I understand this. And, you know, I don't have my PhD yet, but I'm working towards my upper level education. And I'm still not quite understanding this. You're allowing what to be done? You're allowing this facility to go from the 72 plants, which means that a caregiver could have 5 patients, including themselves, and allow 12 plants for each patient, so that would be 60 for the 5 patients and 12 for the caregiver to have. What are we doing more specifically? Because it's not really clear. And how does this require a zoning ordinance text amendment? I would yield the rest of the time if I could get a clear-cut understanding as to what's being done. And through the chair to the city planner, I don't need your sarcasm to tell me that green is not in the site plans or the master plan or whatever you refer to as it relates to the color of a building. I absolutely know what plans are. I asked the question, was it going to be green? Because the buildings south of 8 Mile, they're identifiable by being all green. So it wasn't a stupid question. A stupid question is an unasked question. So please be kind and respectful with your demeanor so that I can do the same thing. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time for a clear-cut understanding as to what's going on. and I thank this council so much. And thank you, City Council, for taking my recommendation about the Black Lives Matter banners. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. President, we'll see if we have anyone else.
Okay.
1 second.
I just want to say, I'm just going to have to say, I don't think by any means Mr. Crow was being disrespectful to.
Right, Mr. President, you just wait to reserve your comments to after the public hearing is closed, please, sir.
Sorry about that. Okay.
It's okay. Mr. President, we're all set. No more calls for public hearing comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, public hearing is now closed. I kind of jumped ahead of myself on that, but I did just want to respond to the last caller that's saying that I don't think our planner was by any way being demeaning or in any way. He was simply doing his job and answering the question that was asked. And in fact, I think it was more of an attack on him just then. And so those type of things won't be tolerated. I was close to cutting you off, just so you will know if you're still listening. But if it does happen again, I won't let it carry on. All right, so we will turn to council at this time, and I want to start with Ms. Morris for any questions.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Banks?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Brightwell?
No questions.
All right. Mr. Hoskins?
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Crow.
Yes, thank you. I guess I won't, I'll just say that I was just trying to respond to the question. But that being said, there's two motions. If you would consider approving the text amendment, that's the first motion that needs to be approved on. And the second one would be to introduce ordinance number 1722. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Unless there's
Mr.
anything
President?
else. Yes, Mr. Mandelbaum.
I have no questions, thank you.
You skipped him again.
Mike, I'm sorry, man. I apologize once again. All right. I'm going to have to start writing this stuff down. All right, I'm sorry. So I'll let you go ahead and make the motion right now. How about that?
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve PZTA 20-0001.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Mr. Brightwell, that we approve PZTA 20-001. Are there any comments or questions before we take a vote? Madam Clerk?
Brightwell?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Resolution for PZTA 20-001 approved.
All right, thank you.
Right, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Mandelbaum.
I'd like to make a motion that we introduce ordinance number 1722.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Mr. Brightwell, that we introduce ordinance number 1722. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
introduction of 1720, ordinance number 1722 adopted.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
Yep, thank you through the chair. I will be staying on the line for a brief comment under planners and then also under the ordinance enactments. We do have one clarification that I want to point out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll now move on to our communications portion of the meeting. Again, we'll give a moment to give people an opportunity to call in before we get started. And again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Pam.
Want to go first? Okay, hold on. My husband's going to go first.
Okay.
Go ahead, baby.
Turn the TV down.
Let me turn this.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Gerard Mullen, Post Office Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037. Mr. President, tonight I would like to talk about Section 11.18. 11.18 in the Southfield City Charter. Section 11.18 is entitled Amendment. Unfortunately, 11.8 known as Public Act 279 of 1909, subtitled Charter Amendment Procedure. Here is why Southfield's Section 11.18 is not kosher with Michigan's charter law amendment procedure. When the authors of 11.18 tried to adapt into the Southfield City Charter the Michigan charter law amendment procedure, they screwed up. Yes, they screwed up by dropping one step in a two-step process that is needed to amend a charter. Let me explain. There are two necessary but separate steps according to the Act on how to amend a city charter. Step number one, council must first pass by 5 votes a proposed charter amendment. And then step number two, the voters must pass by ballot election the said amendment. And that is how a Michigan city like Southfield is supposed to amend its charter. But that's not what the Southfield City Charter says. Instead, 11.18 deletes step number two, the ballot election, altogether. And in doing so, disenfranchises the Southfield voter. That's you and I. In a word, you folks here on this city council need to fix Section 11.18 along with the many other flawed sections in the Southfield City Charter by creating a charter commission like the one in 1999. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're waiting for the next caller. 1 second, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Pam Gerald again. You know, I listen to AM 910 Superstation to Black Dynamic Duo bringing us news that we can use, and that would be Riddle at Random with Sam Riddle and Red Line with Bankaley Thompson. I was appalled today that we had a Southfield resident to call in and bash our city and our police department about how this particular case or police call was handled. I appreciate the fact that the chief of police did a press conference and showed the video. Obviously, this resident did not watch the press conference to see what happened in the video. And people are feeling some kind of way about how this is being talked about by this one particular resident on these shows. I only have a 37-year history with the city of Southfield, and I have seen the city evolve. I've seen elected officials and city employees and administration come and go, but I've never seen a resident that will attempt to divide the community. We have built a relationship with our police department, and it took us a long time to do that. We don't need someone going to different municipalities saying that we handled something wrong when you yourself don't even know what happened. All I could say to this resident is, look at the video, go back and listen to the press conference, and then you tell me what you think. I am just appalled. We are in a transition right now, and the way we're going to come out of it is for all of us to work together. The taxpayers, the city, administration, the council, the city employees, and our public safety. We know that our public safety has worked very hard to meet the criteria of answering calls and going over and above giving a fast response time. Our residents in the city of Southfield understand that whenever you hear a siren, someone from public safety is risking their lives for you or your relative or someone else that you love. So for this resident to say the dastardly things that he said on the air, I find appalling and disrespectful. This is the same resident that brown-nosed to one candidate and sucked all up when he thought this person was going to get the job, introducing his son to the potential candidate. And then once that candidate didn't get it, you sucked off.
Mr. President, we'll wait and see if we have any more callers. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
We are all set, sir. We don't have any more public comment. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. We'll now move to the council portion of the meeting, and I think I'd be remiss this evening if I didn't start with Mr. Mandelbaum and give him the first word tonight. So, Councilman Mandelbaum.
Thank you. I guess this is a question for you, Mr. President. Are we going to continue doing the telephone meetings through the end of July, or are we going to at some point switch either to video or in person before the executive order finishes?
The administrator and I have been talking about it. I don't think we'll be in person before July 31, no. We may try some different platforms if we have an opportunity before then to see how they work out, but no in-person meetings at this point until after the executive order ends.
Okay. Other than that, I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Morris.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. For clarification purposes, I just want to restate that at our June 8th meeting, I suggested that we place the Black Lives Matter banners along Evergreen. I know that the previous speaker said that she did, but that's not correct. She did, in all fairness, challenge the council to respond to Black Lives Matter, And in doing so, I believe that night I asked the council president if that's something that he thought we could do, and he said that we could. And so I guess my question would be, when would we be able to get those banners up?
I don't know, Fred, can you answer that? That was supposed to be today or tomorrow, right?
We are waiting to take possession of the banners. They are being produced locally. As soon as we get the call, we've got a crew ready to get them up this week. So I'm hoping that they go up, that they're picked up tomorrow, installed Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then one final comment. At our Kneel to Heal rally that we had at City Hall on June 11th, there was a voter registration booth, as well as other community groups distributing literature and educational materials. And I guess this would be a question for our clerk. If somebody wanted to conduct a voter registration rally or some kind of voter registration activity at City Hall, do they need to contact you? Would they need a permit? How would they go about doing that?
That was an open space. It's a public space, Council President Pro Tem Morris, so they do not. It's an open space area. It would be different if they were inside the building.
Okay, so they would not need any kind of permission. They could just
freedom of speech, freedom to pass out paperwork. So no, they would not in the open space, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. That's all I have, Council President.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Okay, yes, hi, thank you. I just have a question through the chair to the planner, so I'm glad that you stayed on. When you have, or people call in, would it be possible to have them call in on one of the clerk's lines so that we can hear them better? It's very difficult to hear when you're doing phone to phone.
I understand through the chair. This was the recommended method because we had so many problems in the past with giving out our party lines. So hopefully, as Madam Clerk had stated, and Council President, we're going to a new platform by the next time we meet in July, and that will eliminate some of these issues. I've been frustrated as well, but that's the best that we can do at this time.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. I do want to just ask everyone to remain safe and to wear your face mask and just stay safe and practice the safe distancing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Banks?
Thank you. The other day, while putting groceries into my car, a young lady came up to me and asked if I would just please give her a few minutes and talk to her. To make a long story short, this young lady was a victim of domestic violence and was seeking help. I immediately called the police department, and I would like to thank them for their professionalism in handling this extreme difficult situation. They made sure that the lady was safe, secure, and she was extremely grateful for the assistance that she received from our police department. Also, 4th of July is around the corner. I hope everyone please continues to social distance, wear your mask, and remain safe. The virus is still out there, and our numbers in Southfield are still increasing. Please do not let this beautiful weather fool you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brightwell?
No comments.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Hoskins?
Thank you. I would just echo what Councilwomen Taylor and Banks had said. Please be safe. We are still in a pandemic, and there are places around the country that are in a lot worse position than we are here in Michigan, and that's only because we were way more aggressive than most states were. So please continue to wear your mask. Please continue to social distance. I know as things open up, we sometimes get a little bit more lax, but the last thing we want is a second wave to come here to Michigan. and for us to possibly be in the position we were a couple of months ago. So please continue to do what you can. If you need to get tested, you can always go to michigan.gov/coronavirus. You can find a testing site. There's a lot of places that will do it for free for you. But beyond that, that is all I have.
All right, great. Thank you. And I just had one thing that I just wanted to mention, that on, on Sunday, June 28th, from 2 to 4, there will be a Black Men Unite peaceful protest taking place. There will be a march in support of Black lives that have been lost to police brutality and racial injustice. This is hosted by, or spearheaded by Mr. Eric Brown on behalf of the fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi, but it includes all of the fraternities and sororities and all of the community as well. So if you wish to be a part of this this march and protest, if you will, the demonstration will begin at Hope United Methodist Church and will conclude at the Southfield Municipal Complex, or the Donald F. Percosity Municipal Complex. And there will be voter registration taking place during this event as well. And so we'd like to have as many people out as humanly possible to support this as well. This is an ongoing concern throughout our community and throughout the country. And so this is just yet another opportunity to show our support. And we work with Chief Barron on this, so he has helped create the route that we usually use for the MLK March. It's the same march we'll be using, but just so you know that it will be a safe and peaceful demonstration that's in conjunction with Southfield Police Department as well. So that is all I had. Next, go to our mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, good evening. First of all, I'd like to congratulate and thank both our Human Services Department, Rhonda Terry, and the Southfield Lathrop Democratic Club. We had I will call it a Juneteenth food distribution on Friday that about 160 families were served with groceries and a box of fresh produce. And thank our emergency management, Justin Beck, for helping coordinate that event. It went off beautifully. Secondly, as you may recall, the Southfield My Brothers Keeper chapter has had a face mask and PPE for personal protection drive that ended last week, and the distribution will take place at 11 a.m. this Saturday, July 27th, and it'll be in the circular driveway of Parks and Rec, similar to the food distribution. People can pull up in cars and receive free face masks, hand sanitizers, and some other things. A number of the items were donated by the Chinese American Association for Southfield youth. Again, that's this Saturday, June 27th, starting at 11 a.m. in the Southfield Parks and Rec circle. I totally agree with the 4th of July coming and want to remind people that not only practice safe distancing, but we're having a rash of illegal fireworks going off every night. Our city ordinance prohibits fireworks from being used until the day before, the day of, and the day after the 4th of July holiday. Thank you, Council.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's funny, and that's not just happening in Southfield. I was actually watching The View today, and Whoopi Goldberg mentioned it. It's been going on all across the country, fireworks and things. And I've been hearing them every night, and you're right. So I would say if anybody's hearing them or sees them, to please make note of it or report it, because we do have an ordinance in that regard, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes, actually. So thank you for that. We'll move on now to the administration portion of the meeting. Mr. Zorn, you have one item?
Yes, sir, I do. And unfortunately, this item came after the deadline for our last, the June 15th Committee of the Whole. Therefore, I'm asking Council to adopt, under my portion, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the interlocal agreement between the city of Southfield and Oakland County. The county was hoping to get this document back by June 30th, and our next meeting is not until July 13th. The agreement basically governs the parameters in which the CARES monies will be reimbursed to the city. That's the Coronavirus AIDS Relief and Economic Security Act that was passed in March of this year. If you'll notice, the agreement doesn't speak to a dollar amount. That is yet to be determined by the county commissioner, the board, and we know there's $30 million available for reimbursement. As I stated earlier during our discussion pertaining to community development block grant, this is just one of the buckets we will have access to. We've already received just under $50,000 from CARES money through the Department of Justice, our fire department, through the entity that handles our insurance billing, has been able to go after lost revenues. That was another piece of money that came in to the city. So we continue to work through these COVID funding activities. So the resolution's straightforward. We're asking for the authority for the mayor and clerk to sign the attached interlocal agreement, subject to the final approval by the city attorney's office, and the city attorney's office has reviewed this document.
All right,
so I am looking for a resolution on this, Mr. President.
Okay. Council, any questions for the city administrator? If there are none, then we can take a vote. Council, we got to entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Mandelbaum.
I make a motion that we approve the recommended resolution for the agreement for the CARES Act distribution as mentioned by the city administrator.
Support. This is Councilwoman Morris.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Ms. Morris, that we approve the proposed resolution and agreement for the CARES Act distribution as presented by our city administrator. Are there any other questions or concerns before we take a vote? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Resolution for the agreement for the CARES Act distribution adopted.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just sent all of the elected officials a communication that Austin Michaels prepared a few minutes after 5. It looks like I received it at 10 after 5. But before Mr. President, I would like to turn the floor over to Austin Michaels. But I would like to just a couple comments about the COVID. We are still moving to the restoration of services within the city. City Hall is open. The building department is open. The library, Parks and Rec, and the courts remain closed. We're moving towards trying to get back to what the new normal will look like. As has been stated, we've had a couple boards where they've met together as groups. One group is meeting tomorrow. We are using that as a learning curve. We're looking at some new microphones and that to help the volume and the presentations in those rooms. And then, as I stated earlier, we are putting together a team to deal with the reimbursement of various COVID expenses. And the bulk of our expenses will initially first be submitted to FEMA. Those expenses that we cannot receive funding from FEMA will be submitted to various other buckets. We will continue to look for other money either through our community service agencies or different programs from the state to help people out with the rent and the eviction situation. The governor's executive order on rent evictions expires the end of July, and we are expecting some major issues within our courts. At this time, I would like to, Mr. President, with your permission, turn the floor over to Mr. Michaels. He does have some information, a bit of good news. If I may then, Mr. President?
Go right ahead.
All right.
Good evening, Council. This is Austin Michaels. What Mr. Zorn has sent to you is the FY21 budget executive summary. In addition, I believe there's a memo there that explains what has changed. So, Council adopted the budget last Monday, and while we were doing our reconciliation with Oakland County, it was discovered that our total taxable value was actually understated by just over $30 million. That means that the levies that we would be collecting were misstated in the budget. So I will be bringing a budget adjustment back to Council at the July meeting. The good news is that this actually increased revenues to the city by $523,000, and we were able to lower the tax rate. The general operating levy increased by just over $200,000. The police and fire levy increased by just over $210,000. And then along with that, our tax administration fees and penalties increased by $20,000. In the other funds, the library increased their revenue by $85,000, and we're able to use that to offset some of their planned use of fund balance. The local streets fund increased by $33,700, major streets by $3,500, and then parks and recreation by a little over $53,000. In total, the general fund is still a decrease from last year, but it is now a very small decrease. Now it's a 0.3% decrease from last year. As I said, I will be bringing a budget adjustment back to Council to reflect these changes for the FY21 budget. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Well, we'll start with Ms. Taylor.
Nope, this is good news. Thank you very much, Austin. No question.
All right, Ms. Banks.
No, this is real good news. Thank you. However, I thought you said last time when we approved the budget that we were not pulling from fund balance.
The general fund was not pulling from fund balance. The library did budget to use fund balance, as did components. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Austin. No further questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brightwell?
This is good news, Austin. The most obvious question is, why was it understated? How did that happen?
I think it had to do with the additional details that were provided by assessing this year, and some of the capture districts were netted against our total taxable value.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Good enough. Thank you.
And Mr. President, there was a timing issue. You literally just got this information, and a lot of it may be because of some of the delays that we've been dealing with in putting a budget together with COVID.
Understood.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
this has been the most interesting budget process.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll get the amended version next week anyway, so we'll have a little time to look at it before our next meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Hoskins?
Does the overall, the lower tax rate, how does that impact the average Southfield resident?
It's very minimally because the amount that we lowered the tax rate is 0.003 mils.
Okay.
Is there I'm sorry, can I add to Mr. Hoskins' question? What would that equate to on average for a homeowner or something? Or
Yeah, actually, if you have the executive summary in front of you, if you turn to page 15.
Okay.
It breaks down the mills and how much it impacts the taxes.
Got you. Okay.
This is the example where we use a Southfield home with a market value of $100,000, a taxable value of $50,000.
Yep, I got it. I'm good. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in your way, Mr. Hoskins.
No, that's fine.
You good?
And yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mr. Mandelbaum?
Thank you, Austin. Can we make more of these mistakes so we don't have to pull from any fund balance and have a surplus? I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Morris?
No questions for me. Great news, Austin. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, anything else, Mr. Zorn?
No, sir. It's nice to end with some good news, though. I was pleased myself when I learned this afternoon. And I apologize for not getting that out as soon as it came. That's it, then. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, Madam Attorney, you have 2 items.
Yes, good evening, Council, Mayor. Last week at the committee of the whole meeting, we discussed the ordinance in regards to fireworks. The only amendment that I had presented for that ordinance was that there was a sentence, and in the sentence it said with instead of without, saying that ignition, discharge, or use of the consumer fireworks on public property, school property, church property, or the property of another person cannot be done without those property owners' permission. So I am requesting tonight that council approve that, and I'd like to introduce that ordinance, which I believe will be ordinance number 1723.
And Mr. President, this is the city clerk. This will be introduced as an emergency ordinance with an introduction and enactment. At the same time, due to the public safety and welfare of our residents, currently we need to change this ordinance before the 4th of July, and our next meeting will be July 13th. So because this has to do with public safety and welfare of our residents with the fireworks, we would ask that this be introduced and enacted as an emergency ordinance this evening, sir. Thank you.
All right.
That is correct. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, Ms. Morris?
Yes. I'd just like to make a motion that we introduce and enact ordinance number 1723.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Ms. Morris, supported by Mr. Brightwell, that we introduce and enact ordinance number 1723, an emergency ordinance for the safety and well-being of our residents. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk?
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Haskins?
Yes.
Okay. Adopted to introduce and enact ordinance number 1723. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item B?
Yes, thank you once again, Mr. President. So the other ordinance we discussed dealt with work being done in the city's public right-of-ways, and there is a Chapter 33 in the Southfield Code that deals with when, for example, in this particular situation, it started with the utility companies when they would have a utility franchise agreement, and we talked about when they would pull the permit. So we did have a policy from 1999, and as we discussed last week, we want the ordinance to address applications. So along with the ordinance, I also attached a utility permit, but we will be coming back with more permit applications so the council can approve it. But for tonight, I'm asking the council to approve ordinance, which would be 1724, introducing the amendment to sections 4.1 and 4.3.
Okay. Questions, council? All right, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Nancy Banks.
Yes, Ms.
Go ahead.
Banks?
Go ahead, Jason. I move that we introduce ordinance number 1724, ordinance pertaining to permits and bonds and streets and sidewalks.
Support.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Banks, supported by Ms. Morris, that we introduce ordinance number 1724.
That was
Madam
Taylor.
Clerk? Oh, that was Taylor. I apologize. Please duly noted. This has been introduced by Ms. Banks, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we introduce ordinance number 1724. Madam Clerk?
Morris? Yes. Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Haskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance number 1724 adopted.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the attorney's office?
No, I want to say thank you and just let council know that the utility permit application, I think, is in the back of the packet. And if anyone had any questions about that, but from going forward, we will be bringing different permit applications to council so that way council will know what work is being done, and then the process will be a lot simpler and we can move forward in those public right-of-ways.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. King. All right, we'll move to the clerk's office.
Good evening, everyone, again. Just a couple of things. The governor's office did extend our ability to have remote meetings through the end of July. As we move forward, we're trying to advance in our technology. So over this couple of weeks break, we will be implementing some new technology to try to better serve our residents during our meetings. So we'll have more conversation about that. As alluded to earlier, the better technology would help with some of our audio challenges at times when we have third-party individuals that are on our lines. So currently, right now, we would be looking at 3 additional remote meetings before potentially we would have to go to in-person meetings. I'll be sending a few emails over the next couple weeks to kind of give you an idea of how some other communities have been doing their meetings. So look on the lookout for that. And then I wanted also to note, as the country is gaining more
momentum with Juneteenth. I know it's a day of celebration for the African American community, and with Southfield being predominantly African American, we may want to look into potentially changing our ordinance to allow fireworks potentially on or before the day of Juneteenth. Friday, there were a lot of people that were doing fireworks during this time as they were celebrating freedom as African Americans. So I know nationally there has been momentum. Over 1 million signatures were collected to petition to make Juneteenth a national holiday. And if that momentum continues, I would ask my colleagues, the City Council, to consider amending the ordinance to allow that date for fireworks, maybe in the near future of next year. And that concludes my comments this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The Treasurer's Office?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to also echo my thanks to Austin for the good news. I've been this long-term advocate for lower taxes, Longberg for lower taxes, so definitely happy to hear that's happening. I just want to also share with Council, we're going to be mailing out our tax bills as of the beginning of July. July 1st, we mail them out. And on the tax bills, we'll hopefully be able to have a little bit of a lower rate on taxes. But also besides that, just wanted to also let you know that the water bills that were rolled to taxes were actually lower this year, even with the COVID crisis and the economic downturn. It actually, we had less money being rolled to taxes for delinquent water bills than the previous years. So that's a positive thing. And also, we are going to bring before the next for the next council meeting new online billing online payment method that people will be able to make their payments online, and it's more user friendly. It has more features, and we'll let council know about it at the next meeting. So, thank you very much, and hope everyone enjoys the July 4th.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lowenberg. All right, Mr. Crowe, I know you had something about
Yep.
the ordinances.
Thank you, through the chair. I just, the council president had requested that I solicit feedback from the council regarding a proposed peace poll. I did send that information out last Thursday. To date, I've only received responses from 3 council persons. So I've just asked you, through the council, to send me an email. I will compile the results and then share the consensus on the various items that were requested. And then, secondly, with regard to the permits and bonds for work in the right-of-way, this has kind of been a challenge for us throughout the years that utility companies will go in, they got to do what they got to do, but the restoration and the cleanup seems to take forever. And many times we're going back and doing work 2 or 3 times to repair all the good streetscape or other amenities that have been previously constructed by the city. So I would ask that you look closely at holding the utility companies and the underground cable companies more accountable for restoration and cleanup in a timely manner when you take this subject up further. And then my final comments will remain when we go to enactment of the ordinances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is the assessor on? Is there anything from the assessor's office or the engineering office? Okay. So then we will move to the ordinances. We have two ordinances to enact. 1719, Maple Tree Apartments.
Yes.
Councilman Mandelbaum?
Through the chair, before Mr. Mandelbaum, before you act, there's a clarification that I need to make. If we could go to the slide deck that shows the 2 slides on this issue. So when this rezoning request was first submitted, the applicant requested 4.09 acres, which basically kind of squared off the area of his existing property with the single family that he has an option on. Through the course of review by the mortgage company, They wanted to limit the rezoning to only the minimum amount of acreage that was required based on the number of units and the land area per unit. Therefore, the request is that the actual rezoning be scaled back to 3.25 acres as indicated in the map that's being shown. If you could go to the next slide, please. And this just shows you the sketch that the area that they're requesting to be rezoned is within the area that was advertised. So this would be the appropriate time to make that correction. And before you enact ordinance number 1719, PZR 19-0007, Maple Tree Apartments, we want to just correct the record that it is actually 3.25 acres of property from R1 single family residential and RMM multiple family to RT single family attached. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, with that clarification, are there any questions before we take a vote? If not, I will allow Mr. Mandelbaum again to move forward with the motion he was about to make.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion that we enact ordinance number 1719, which is PZR 19-0007, with the amendment that we are only rezoning 3.25 acres instead of the 4.09 acres.
Okay. Is there support?
Support. This is Councilwoman Morris.
All right, thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Ms. Morris, that we enact ordinance number 1719, which is PZR 19-0007, Maple Tree Apartment, with the addendum that instead of 4.9 acres being rezoned, that it will be 3.25, as noted by our city planner. Are there any questions or concerns before we take a vote? Madam Clerk?
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Enactment of ordinance 1719 is passed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have one more ordinance to approve, Council.
Councilman Mandelbaum?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to move that we enact ordinance number 1720, which is PZR ODD 19-0005.
Support. This is Councilman Hoskins.
All right, been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Mr. Hoskins, that we enact ordinance number 1720, which is PZR ODD 19-0005. Are there any questions or concerns before we vote? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Banks?
Yes.
Brightwell?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Mandelbaum?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Enactment of ordinance 1720 adopted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, is there anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? All right, hearing none. Thank you for your time this evening, and this meeting is now adjourned.